students lose marks before they even start writing, not because they don't know the content, but because they don't analyze the question properly. Today, I'm going to show you exactly how to break down a requirement and plan an answer that helps you gain marks. We're going to take real style question requirements, break them down step by step, and I'll show you how to turn that analysis into a clear, structured answer plan. So why does planning matter? Many students don't bother with planning and they end up losing marks. Again, not because they lack the knowledge, but because they misread the requirements, they write without structure, or they miss tasks that's hidden within the wording of the requirement. Planning solves all of that. A good plan helps you to understand exactly what the examiner is requiring. It helps you to avoid writing irrelevant content, helps you to structure your answer logically, manage your time, and stay calm under pressure. So how do we do that? Using a simple planning method that has 3 steps. Step number 1 is to analyze the question requirements. Number 2 is to create an answer outline. And number 3 is to write your answer. So step 1, analyzing the question requirement. There are 4 things I look for in the requirement: the verb, the stem, any conjunctions and exceptions or restrictions. The verbs are the command verbs. This is going to tell you the depth of answer that is required. A question that's asking you to explain, evaluate, recommend, discuss will require more information than something that's saying to list, define, or calculate. Then you need to identify the stem. This is telling you the topic or the focus of the answer. Then look for conjunctions, words like and, or, but, however, therefore, because these often signal multiple tasks and are very easy to miss. And look for, number 4, exceptions or restrictions. Words like not, except, only, using the scenario, apply, with reasons, because these can change the direction of the answer completely. Step number 2 in this 3-part process is to create an answer outline. And here I use a very simple structure, one that we learned when we were learning to write essays: intro, body, and conclusion. This gives me a framework to order my thoughts as I refer to the scenario, looking for the relevant information, and then I would make brief notes about what I want to cover in my answer. And step 3 is then to write the answer. And here I will use the outline that I created in step number 3 to write, or in step number 2 to write my answer. It will keep me focused and on task. And as I'm writing, I'll keep referring to the question requirement to make sure that I'm answering what is being asked. So now that you've seen the planning method at a high level, what I want to do next is to show you how this works in practice. I'm going to switch to my screen and walk you through the steps of how I analyze the requirements and build a simple answer outline in Word. This is the same process that I have used and I share with other students. And once you've seen it done step by step, you also be able to use it in any exam that you sit. So let's go have a look at how we plan an answer. The idea is just to get you into the habit of thinking, of analyzing the requirement, creating the answer outline, and then writing your answer. So however you actually would do that in the exam, then go ahead and do that. So the first thing we have, I've already had the demo on there. So, and you see I have the 3 steps already sort of laid out there. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to find a question requirement. So I'm just going to take that and I'm going to copy it into my demo, my answer planning demo. Okay. So remember I said that there were four things we're looking for. We're looking for the verb, the stem, conjunctions, and any exceptions or restrictions. And so I'm going to be analyzing, and to help me with that, I'm just going to annotate the requirement. So I'm looking for the verb first of all. So I'm going to annotate that. So that's the verb. Simply, I'm just going to highlight it. And then I'm just going to separate the answer to help me better understand the things I have to do. Now, the stem, we said the stem told us the focus or the topic of the question. And so the stem here is the performance of the organization. So I'm just going to put that in a different color, right? So I know that that is what I'm being asked to do. I'm being asked to give some sort of a response to the performance of the organization. Nothing else is the performance. And then I have another clue in the requirements, and that is under the category of conjunctions, because this is going to be telling me any methods that I must utilize. So here we see using, so that's giving me direction. And then it then gives me the exceptions or the restrictions. And that is, I'm just going to put a different color. It doesn't matter what you use to annotate it. So here on my four parts, I've got to analyze. So this is telling me exactly what I need to do, the depth of the answer, what I'm analyzing, right? That's the focus of the response, and then what method I have to use. So I have to use this model that's called the 3 E's: economy, efficiency, and effectiveness. So that gives me sort of like a map for how to go about structuring my answer. So my next step is to now create the answer outline. So remember I said that I'm using a simple 3-part structure of introduction, body, and conclusion. So I'm just going to type that in, that's what I'm going to have. Then in the body, that's going to be the body of the answer, right? And then I'm going to put economy, because that's point 1, because I have to use this model. Then point 2 is efficiency. Point 3 is effectiveness. Okay. And here I'm going to put whatever the subpoints are. So point 1, so point 2, and I'm just putting subpoint 1, 2, and 3 as an example just for demonstration purposes. But in the exam, if you would have a scenario, so you would then refer to your scenario and look for points related to economy, efficiency, and effectiveness. And you would just annotate or write those down in your answer plan, right? At this point, you're not going into any great detail. This is just to give you a structure to help you to order your thoughts and be able to come up with a cohesive, clear answer that will attract marks, but that would also be able to guide the marker through your response. And then the conclusion. Okay, so in the introduction, you might just figure out some bits and pieces to write. And now the third stage is writing the answer. And so here I'm going to use, as I said, my outline from step 2, and that's going to help me write my answer. It's going to help me stay on point. It's going to help me be more focused, avoid a lot of waffle and writing a set of extra stuff. So introduction might say something like, I will use the 3 E's model to analyze the performance of XYZ organization. And then first, economy, right? And then I'm going to write my answers and finish. Second, efficiency, and then write my answer. And then third, effectiveness. And then write my answer. And then come to conclusion. And then you say, from this analysis, using the 3E's model, X, Y, Z organization is ... And then you'd make some sort of comment on the performance. Okay? And it's as simple, well, not as simple as that, but that kind of gives you an idea. Now, please, let me just also qualify that what I'm focusing on is your technique. I'm not looking at what are the actual answers to these things because I'm not an expert tutor. I'm here to help you with your technique. So for that, if you are with a training provider and so on, then speak to your tutors. But this is more helping you with the technique part of things, because this, I think, is an area where many students fall down because there's not as much emphasis in there. So one, you analyze the requirement, or you break it down into its component parts. So you're looking for the verb. This is telling you what you're going to be expected to do. That's the command verb. You're looking at the stem of the question. That's what is the focus or the topic about. Then any conjunctions. That's going to sort of give you an idea of any particular models you need to use, or if there are multiple sections to the question. And then the latter part would be any exceptions or restrictions. So that was number one. Let's have a look at, we'll just look at one more. One that uses, let's try this one, because this one actually uses a conjunction, right? So here again, we're going to look at their question requirements. So here we're going to copy that and let's have a look at this. So here the verb is to justify. The stem is appropriate management approaches. Okay. Here we have a conjunction, so we want to definitely pay attention to this. Underline, bold, italicize it, whatever works. Because that means there are two things, there are two tasks that we have to look at here. Okay. So briefly justify and evaluate. So here's the other verb. So there are two verbs I've noticed there. So I've got justify and I've got evaluate. What am I justifying? Appropriate management approaches. But as I continue my analysis, I see here that it's not just management approaches, but it's giving me more information to each stakeholder. So when I'm crafting my outline, I have to make sure that I am addressing the stakeholders. So that's part A of the question requirements. And then part B is evaluate. And what do I have to evaluate? This is the STEM. I'm evaluating the performance measures. And here I have an exception. Suggested. So that means somewhere in the scenario, there would be some performance measures that have already been stated. So you don't have to go trying to make up or figure out performance measures. What is the scenario telling you? Okay, so that's how I would analyze that. So I see here that one, I've got to justify appropriate management approaches and then each stakeholder. So that's the key thing here. And then what am I doing? I'm evaluating the suggested performance measures. So that's going to help me to make sure I stay on track. So that's part step one. Step two is to create my answer outline. So again, I put my introduction. And then here, I would sort of probably put like management approaches to each stakeholder. So I might say here, stakeholder 1, management approach. Then stakeholder 2, again, this is dependent upon what the scenario is telling me, right? And then I need to make sure I cover the evaluation of performance measures. Okay, so I would say performance measure 1, performance measure 2. And so obviously under here, I would have my sub points under each one, right? All the relevant sub points will come under here. At this stage, my goal is just really just to order my thoughts and to ensure that I'm covering everything that the question is asking me to do and that I'm staying on point. And then I end with my conclusion. And then the final part is now writing the answer. And again, I'm just referring to my answer outline. So my introduction, right? And then I will justify the management approaches to each stakeholder and evaluate the suggested performance measures. And then management approaches. And then I write my answer. And performance measures, write my answer. And then the conclusion. And so that is a simple process for helping you to plan your answer. And that helps you to stay focused and to ensure that you are answering the requirement that the examiner or the marker is looking for. So I hope that you have found this little tutorial helpful. If you would like more information or more tips on exam strategy, on exam mindset, then do follow and subscribe to the channel. Hit that notification bell so that you can get more tips and approaches to help you be successful in your accounting exams. Until next time.